Well, hello everyone. Welcome back. I hope you're coming back for another episode of Mondays with Mundy. And if you haven't guessed, that's me, Jim Mundy, the historian for the Union League Legacy Foundation at the Union League of Philadelphia. You know me, I like to connect historical dots to dates and stuff like that, and why not? That's how we study history sometimes. So there is a battle coming up on September 29th that took place in 1864 that we're going to be talking about in this episode. It's the other battle that took place in September. So if you know a little bit about Civil War history, military history, you know that probably the greatest battle in September took place on the 17th of 1862, the Battle of Antietam, right? Important because it produced the preliminary Emancipation Proclamation on September the 22nd. It led to the one on January the 1st. It led to all other kinds of things. So what about this other battle? We're going to learn all about it. And to get to that point, though, I'm going to read from an article I wrote recently because I think it's going to be the easiest way for me to describe it and you to understand it. And so we'll see what happens with all of that, all right? So first and foremost, though, I'm going to share my screen because I do have a PowerPoint. So that's okay with everybody. And here we are. All right. Okay, I do that, I do that, I do that, and this is what we get. Okay, fantastic. I love it when it works. Okay, so hope everybody's all right with this. So as you can see, I call it September's Other Battle, New Market Heights, which is in Virginia, September 29th of 1864. Let's get started. All right. The Battle of Antietam, September 17th of 1862, dominates our view and knowledge of military history in that month. There is another battle, New Market Heights, September 29th of 1864, that deserves our attention. The battle produced 18 Medals of Honor, 14 of which were awarded to black soldiers who fought in United States Colored Troop regiments. One regiment from Philadelphia, the 6th, took 3 Medals of Honor in that battle. And this is the story about the 6th and the battle itself. All right. On May 22nd of 1863, the War Department issued General Order Number 143, creating the Bureau of Colored Troops. And here you see a copy of that order on your screen. Shortly after, on June the 8th, a public meeting took place at the Union League of Philadelphia, organized on December 27th of 1862 as a patriotic society whose purpose was to suppress the rebellion, uphold the Constitution, and support President Abraham Lincoln. The League Clubhouse was then at 1118 Chestnut Street, and that's what you see here in the illustration. The subject was raising black regiments in the city. In attendance were members and leaders of the city's black community. So already this will give an idea of where the League stood in terms of these issues, all right? 2 days later, on June the 10th, a letter was signed by 276 men and was sent to Secretary of War Edwin McMaster Stanton, requesting that 3 regiments, quote, of colored men, unquote, be raised. Of the 276 men who signed the letter, 208, or 75%, were members of the League, reinforcing that point. Stanton replied swiftly on June 17th, granting authority to raise the regiments. Just 1 day later, on the 18th, League members organized something called the Supervisory Committee for Enlistment of Colored Troops. And it was located at, as you can see, 1210 Chestnut Street. So the building where you see those signs, Free Military School, that was actually the headquarters of the Supervisory Committee, all right? And again, and you can see, I hope, members of these USCT soldiers, United States Colored Troop soldiers, out front with arms, okay? On July the 6th, a mass meeting was held at National Hall, located on Market Streets between 12th and 13th, in furtherance of recruiting colored men for the war. Invited by the League, Frederick Douglass addressed the racially mixed audience of men and women. He left no doubt about the importance and intent of the meeting when he said, "Once let the black man get upon his person the brass letters U.S. Let him get an eagle on his button and a musket on his shoulder and bullets in his pocket. There is no power on the earth or under the earth that can deny that he has earned the right to citizenship." So you can see where Douglass is coming from now that they have had, now that the Emancipation Proclamation has ended slavery and black men can become soldiers. It also has to do now with the next issue of citizenship. The Supervisory Committee was the most successful organization of its kind in the country. The 11 regiments recruited almost 11,000 soldiers, were more than all the other Union states combined. The regiments were trained at Camp William Penn, located in today's Cheltenham Township. And that, by the way, is in Montgomery County, but in northern Montgomery County, all right? It was on farmland leased to the government by the Quaker abolitionists James and Lucretia Mott and their son-in-law, Edward M. Davis. Today, the site of the camp would be bordered between Willow Avenue on the north, Cheltenham Avenue on the south, right? Sycamore Avenue on the east, and Penrose Avenue on the west. The camp consisted of 13 acres. The buildings were functional, made of wood and heavy military fabric. The camp opened on June the 26th and was fully operational by July the 4th. The camp commander was Lieutenant Colonel Louis Wagner. The German-born Wagner enlisted in the Union Army in August of 1861. He joined the 88th Pennsylvania Infantry Regiment and was commissioned a first lieutenant in Company D. And this is Wagner here. Unfortunately, there is no image of Wagner that anyone has ever found of him in a military uniform. Right? All right. So he was wounded twice, the second time at the Battle of Chancellorsville in May of 1863, after which he was deemed unfit for service. But he's still in active duty and was promoted to lieutenant colonel, at which point he requested and received command of the first and largest camp of its kind in America, in American military history, that is, training black soldiers. The first recruits arrived on June the 26th and were designated as the 3rd Regiment of U.S. Colored Troops. Let's go back up to that one. By July 24th, its ranks were filled, and the next regiment, the 6th, was formed, and then the 8th, followed by the 22nd, the 24th, the 25th, the 32nd, 41st, 43rd, 45th, and 127th USCT regiments. The 3rd Regiment left camp on August the 13th of 1863, and the 6th Regiment was ready next. On October the 3rd, the 6th marched in a grand parade for General Cadwalader, Wagner's superior officer, where he viewed the proud and disciplined soldiers while standing on the steps of the Union League on Chestnut Street. And this was a controversial thing, by the way. It wasn't the mayor of Philadelphia, Alexander Henry, didn't think that the white citizens would take too kindly to having armed black soldiers marching through Center City, Philadelphia. But they did it anyway. All right. So the regiment arrived at Fort Monroe, Virginia on October the 14th, and from there proceeded to Yorktown, where it was attached to the Department of Virginia in North Carolina. It saw minor action through April 1864, when it was assigned to the 2nd Brigade, Hinks's Colored Division of the 18th Corps, Army of the James, where it would remain in General Benjamin Butler's army through the end of the year. The regiment quickly participated in the capture of City Point, again in Virginia, on May the 4th, and would remain involved in Butler's operations against Petersburg and Richmond, located 20 miles south of the Confederate capital. I'll go here. Okay. It was the transportation hub that fed both cities and allowed General Robert E. Lee to move his troops between the two. Right. So this was obviously from a newspaper at New York, Tuesday, February the 14th of 1863. But you can see how Petersburg has all these roads and railroad line coming into it, and that's just from the southern half, because from there they went north into Richmond itself. You can also see how those dark lines and semicircles around the bottom, those are Confederate entrenchments. Okay. All right. General Ulysses S. Grant's campaign on June the 15th to the 18th to capture Petersburg failed, and both armies would become entrenched around the city for the rest of the year. Grant would continue to poke and prod for weak spots along the Confederate line, trying to cut Lee's railroad supply lines, knowing that it would force Lee to move his smaller forces to meet any challenge. Yet nothing worked. Battles at the Jerusalem Plank Road, Deep Bottom twice, the Crater, the Weldon Railroad, and Reams's Station produced no major military victories or forced Lee to abandon his position. However, 2 of the 3 railroads supplying Petersburg and Lee's army were in Union hands by the end of August, making things more difficult for the Confederates. Meanwhile, in the Shenandoah Valley, just to the southwest, right, Union and Confederate armies, commanded respectively by Generals Philip Sheridan and Jubal Early, fought for control of that strategically important territory. In September, Grant's target was the South Side Railroad west of Petersburg. He had learned that Lee had supplied reinforcements to Early, thus weakening his defenses around Richmond. Hoping to draw Lee's attention away from the railroad and taking advantage of Lee's troop reduction, Grant ordered a diversionary attack against Richmond. General Benjamin Butler's Army of the James would lead the assault. And this is Butler himself, and he is one of the more, I don't know if notorious is the right adjective to use, but certainly one of the more fascinating military leaders on either side of the conflict during the war itself. I would encourage you to learn more about him because he was really quite a character, to say the least. The attack would take place on the north side of the James River. And here we go. And there's the James at the very bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Okay. All right. Keeping Lee from reinforcing his army at Petersburg, where the main Union assault is aimed. So this is a diversionary attack then, okay? Got it. One of the columns will be composed of United States colored troops, including the 6th Regiment. Butler was the most vocal proponent of the USCT soldiers. And as he later wrote, he wanted, quote, to convince myself whether the Negro troops will fight and whether I can take, with the Negroes, a redoubt that turned Hancock's corps on a former occasion, unquote. Now, Hancock is Winfield Scott Hancock, probably the Union Army's best corps commander for the entire war, native of Norristown, Pennsylvania, right, and buried there. And Hancock couldn't take this earthworks, as you can see, that red line across the upper center part of your screen there. Then Butler's hopes are even better, but Butler wanted to prove that he could do it, and he wanted to prove that black soldiers could, right? So that's what's at stake. The 6th USCT Regiment was now in the 3rd Brigade of the 3rd Division of the 18th Corps, commanded respectively by Colonel Samuel Duncan, that's the brigade commander, Brigadier General Charles Payne, the division commander, and Major General Edward Ford, Corps commander. Duncan's command also included the 4th USCT Regiment, the brigade now totaling approximately 750 men. To put that in perspective, the full regiment was 1,000 men, and there were usually 4 regiments in a brigade, so that's 4,000 men in a brigade at full strength. And here, Duncan has 2 regiments, not 4, and he's only dealing with a total of 750 soldiers, which is amazing when you think about it. And he's going to, and they're going to lead the charge. So let's see what happens. All right. Butler's meticulously detailed 16-page battle plan called for the 18th Corps minus Payne's division to attack Fort Harrison on the left wing. That's what you see on the left-hand side, right? While Major General David Birney's 10th Corps, including Payne's division, would attack the Confederate line along New Market Heights on the right wing. So what we're looking at here is the right wing of the Union attack. The small village of New Market was located 12 miles to the southeast of Richmond along the New Market Road, and that's the road you see in the lower right-hand corner, and it winds its way into the upper left-hand corner, all right? To the west of New Market, the Confederate earthworks, a mile in length, were placed on the north side and on the right-hand side, okay, and mostly parallel to the New Market Road, running east to west, and obviously at one point they will cross the road, but still basically parallel to it. All right. Early in the morning of September 29th, the 10th Corps landed at Deep Bottom, located at the top of an oxbow on the James River, about 3/4 of a mile below their target, and you can see that on the James River, as it says, Deep Bottom and Pontoon Bridge. That's where they landed. Approximately 2,900 Confederates defended their position. It was protected by an abatis, or an abatis, okay, made up of interlocking trees, branches, and shrubs, which would prove difficult for Union soldiers to break through. To the south of the road was 4 Mile Creek, a swampy obstacle that would also slow the Union advance towards the earthworks. At the west end of the Confederate line was the 1st Rockbridge Artillery, although actually in this illustration it shows that we have the Richmond Howitzers, okay, because the Rockbridge is going to be on the right-hand side. Okay, but it's that would be the Confederate left-hand flank. Okay, and then you have Brigadier General Martin Gray's brigade, followed by the Texas Brigade of Brigadier General John Gregg, and then a detachment of the Richmond Howitzers. Opposite, on the Union side, Payne's division held the left flank, and Brigadier General Alfred Terry's division held the right. Fighting commenced at approximately 5:30 a.m. with fog covering the area. And again, just so you can see it, in the very, you have the word Duncan on your screen there, all right, and the arrow. So Duncan, with his 750 men, is going to hit 3 Texas regiments. You can see 5th, 4th, and 1st lined up along there, all right? Okay, and then, of course, Draper is to the left of Duncan. So they're going to hit that attack simultaneously in theory, all right? So Duncan's 750-man brigade would lead the charge with the 4th Regiment in front and the 6th just to their left rear. They hit that part of the Confederate line defended by Gregg's Texas Brigade, 1,800 soldiers strong, with the expectant results, especially when they discovered they were facing black troops. A Texan, D.H. Hamilton, later recalled that, quote, whatever Grant's purpose for using black troops, it was like flaunting a red flag before a mad bull. No man in our old brigade would have retreated from or surrendered to Negroes. When they charged, the fun began. And you can imagine, to use Mr. Hamilton's word, the fun that they had shooting at black soldiers. Okay, now here we have Colonel Samuel Duncan, the commander of the brigade, the 4th and the 6th USCT Regiment, all 750 men of them. Okay. Duncan's brigade was decimated, losing 52% of its men. Duncan himself was wounded 4 times before leaving the battle. The 6th Regiment fared worse, with 57% casualties. Right? Company D alone lost 87%. All right, so here's a scene from the battle itself. All right. This is a painting that was commissioned by the Abraham Lincoln Foundation, which is the predecessor to the Legacy Foundation, which now exists. And it commemorates the moment of the battle when the 6th Regimental colors, the color guard itself, was shot and on the ground. And so these 3 officers ran in to save the colors from being captured by the Texas Brigade, because in the Civil War, the worst thing that could happen to a regiment is that they lost their colors to the enemy, right? And it was just the most dishonorable thing that could happen. And so on the left-hand side, actually, let me read this and then I'll come back and get it, okay? 3 officers of the 6th would receive the Medal of Honor. Lieutenant Nathan Edgerton in the center, Sergeant Major Thomas Hawkins on the left, and First Sergeant Alexander Kelly on the right, all for saving the regiment's colors. Overall, 14 Medals of Honor were awarded to black USCT officers and soldiers, as many as were issued to black soldiers in the Spanish-American War, World War I, and World War II combined. Okay. As you can see, it's still foggy out in the morning. You can see that, and these men are doing their best to attack, but you can see all that greenery, all that shrubbery around them. That's because they had to reach the Confederate earthworks by going through that abatis made out of these fallen trees and shrubs and things like that. So, and knowing what they were facing, and these men charged, and they knew that they were facing the Texas Brigade, and they knew that the Texans would be aiming specifically to kill, right? So I guess my point being that these men, these soldiers were incredibly brave to do what they did under those circumstances. Well, anyway, it's clear in retrospect that Brigadier General Payne's battlefield experience led to poorly orchestrated tactics that increased the number of casualties, more than 1,000 in front of the New Market Heights line alone. What is equally clear is that black soldiers proved that they could fight as well, if not better, than their white comrades. After the battle, General Butler wrote that, quote, "Better men were never better led. The colored soldiers, by coolness, steadiness, and determined courage and dash, have silenced every cavil of the doubters of their soldierly capacity." So there you are, folks. The Battle of New Market Heights, September 29th, 1864, when this regiment from Philadelphia, the 6th USCT Regiment, United States Color Troop Regiment, heroically fought in a battle that they knew the odds were stacked against them. So that's our story for today. And if you ever get the chance to go to Virginia and look at some Civil War battlefield, there's nothing of this one. There's earthworks. There are many others to see, though, but you can still drive along the New Market Road, and there's a historical marker that commemorates the site of the entrenchment itself and where this battle took place. So there we go. Hope you enjoyed it. It's an amazing story. And sometimes maybe you'll have a chance to come into the Lake House and see the painting itself. It is a stunning painting, to be honest. So we'll do this again next week. Thanks to the Legacy Foundation for having these weekly videos. They're a lot of fun. I hope you're enjoying them as much as I do giving them. But in the meantime, folks, it's still a little unsafe out there. So everybody, stay healthy, stay well, and hopefully we'll see you next week. So thanks for joining, and until next week, goodbye.